Come with me to the making of Harry Potter at the studio tour in London, this time for the Dark Arts experience, where we will see all things costumes, props, sets on this video. It's going to be a good one.
So, welcome back for another video. This week we are at the making of Harry Potter at the Warner Brothers studio here in London, or just outside of London actually. This is not my first time at the studios. I've been here a few times before, but today we are celebrating the Dark Arts. Of course, it's just been Halloween. I know it's slightly past Halloween at this point in time. However, we've got some pretty special things to see today. We've already had a little wander through the Great Hall, which is decked out to the Halloween feast of the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone if you're American. Of course, you do see those massive jack-o'-lanterns that are hanging from the ceiling. Now, those are actually done in post-production, but they do add them in for sort of like the special effects here on the tour. And we see some pretty interesting stuff throughout the tour itself. So buckle on up as we head on through the making of Harry Potter here at the Warner Brothers Studios.
Of course, one of the most iconic parts of the Harry Potter franchise, the Yule Ball, and there were some fantastic costumes. Of course, from Harry, Hermione.
And we cannot forget this number from Ron. Whoa, look at that. And with such a beautiful centerpiece in the middle, it would be criminal not to talk about this ice sculpture. Now, of course, the Harry Potter films are one of the most well-crafted film franchises to ever exist. The attention to detail is absolutely insane, and with the new TV show coming out very, very soon, of course, with one whole series being one whole book or one whole year, then hopefully it's going to be a pretty good one. They're going to have a lot of inclusions that they didn't have in the films that we're going to see today, and hopefully they include them in the new series.
Some of the most iconic props as well.
Now, of course, speaking of it being such a highly developed different series, the attention to detail is absolutely fantastic. From the props and the costumes to the hair and makeup, the Harry Potter Studios tour explains absolutely everything. Really dives on deep into just how beautifully crafted the entire film really is. And the effects teams, the makeup, everything that comes to it, especially the set design, is absolutely flawless. And as you head around the tour, you will see loads of different sets, costumes, props from the films themselves, all screen used. You've got sets like the Gryffindor common room, even now the Slytherin common room as well. Side note on how vibey the Slytherin common room is, I'd love it a lot. Of course, we've got the main Gryffindor common room as well as the boys' room that we see Harry and Ron sleep in. We see some iconic costumes from all across the different franchises. Of course, you've got Harry's invisibility cloak here.
So on one side, you have the ancient runes and like Celtic symbols and stuff that they put it on the cloak to make it like a mysterious, like Deathly Hallows, of course. But on the inside, you will see this green fabric. That's basically a green screen. So if they wanted to make Harry disappear, they'd flip it on the other way around. Daniel Radcliffe would wear it like that, and then they would digitally remove or CG him out to make things look like it was moving by themselves. Or in the first film, you saw Harry's head, which is not there.
They have some really iconic set pieces, of course the giant clock, and also the entrance to Dumbledore's office. Of course, there are so many iconic set pieces, and just like sets in general, like Dumbledore's office in here is fantastic.
I mean, like I say, the attention to detail in this place is absolutely beautiful.
Different props, and the entire area is just so immersive. They have props literally everywhere you look. Like obviously the Triwizard Cup, one of my favourite films in this series, of course the Goblet of Fire, and by far over here one of my favourite sets of the entire franchise. I'm of course talking about Professor Snape and his Dark Arts classroom, which is pretty sick. Again, all of these props and all of these locations have been used on screen, and you have some of the most fantastic teachers that they have ever been, all obviously worn by their actual actors as well. So Slughorn over this side,
and the man himself, Professor Snape. Of course, this costume here being worn by Alan Rickman himself. These oil paintings will never cease to amaze me. So for the ones that move, they actually have a green screen, which basically they would just digitally replace the painting with a moving version, which they would have obviously filmed on a separate screen and then just imported it in. However, these guys, these are all hand-painted portraits, which I think is nuts. They didn't just like find them in a charity shop, they made these specifically for the film.
Hagrid's hut, which was rammed. Now, I'm not going to say all the facts and figures on the tour on the YouTube video today because there's just no point, because you'll be here for hours. However, there is stations everywhere to read all about fantastic moments across the Harry Potter franchise, and there are guys dotted all around here in big blue jumpers, which you can see one of them right there, and they basically have unlimited knowledge.
The tour is of course built for people of all different fandoms, because there's people who come on the tour who have absolutely no idea how movies are made. So they teach you all about the VFX, the special effects, and everything that it takes behind the scenes to work on specific films.
They have newer sets like the Night Bus. This guy's just literally been made over the last couple months and just opened, and it's really cool to see this like dissected now.
And you have smaller practical effects as well, nice and easy and simple, but still make the magic, well, magic.
More iconic pieces now, of course, the Weasley's Burrow, the kitchen, with some really cool sets, some costumes and things like that, but also an interactive part where you can wave your hand or press these buttons, and it does different things like chop carrots, wash dishes, etc. Magic.
Now, there are moments to take photos and moments to interact all across the tour that make you feel like a wizard yourself. There are so many different moments that you can interact with to really test how the magic was made.
Great different photo opportunities in front of a brand new set that's just opened as well. Of course, this crazy-ass Professor Trill, I can never pronounce her name, played by Emma Thompson, of course, with our beautiful characters down here as well. What a set. It is absolutely beautiful. Iconic sets like the Ministry of Magic, as well as iconic costumes.
And things that would haunt your nightmares forever. I'm ever so sorry if you don't like clowns. Of course, with it being the dark arts at the moment, they've actually got interactors running around, actual people dressed as Death Eaters, which I can't tell if every child in here is about to scream, but it's a pretty cool area. And to be honest, if they're running around making everybody nice and scared, well, they're doing their job.
Choreographer for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, created the art known as wand combat. Drawing inspiration from fencing and dance, wand combat had a unique physicality that defined
And we're now heading into the Forbidden Forest, which at the moment is scary.
So this part's where it gets a little bit scary. So there is a way that you can go straight past if you have arachnophobia. However, I don't, so let's go.
Of course, as you walk through, it's super dark, but you get greeted by these scary monsters up here. Of course, with one of the most famous being Aragog.
Now in here you can test all the special effects like that, and you can also learn how different things such as the Patronuses were made. So they literally just stuck these giant light panels on different animals, obviously not real animals.
If you go and press this little button just here, that is exactly what would happen. You can get up close and personal with things like Buckbeak.
And as I say, don't worry, you don't have to do that section. You can skip straight through. Oh, it was kind of loud in the other room, but the Death Eaters was really cool because it started explaining what is known as wandography, or like wand choreography, which is basically like the really iconic way that people using wands look. I mean, if you ever had a wand and just went around trying to shoot spells with yourself, you're gonna look a little bit silly. However, they had a specific choreographer on set to help people make their choreography look the Harry Potter way. So basically make it look fluid and make it look really nice. And of course, as you can tell by behind me today, of course, we're on platform 9 3/4.
Yes! Push!
Thank you.
That was great.
You know, solo vlogging, getting other people to record that sort of stuff. So hit that like and subscribe button. Get us to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024 and it will all be worth it. But of course, the fantastic Hogwarts Express, one of the most iconic parts of the Harry Potter franchise. And you can go in, but the queue says that I'm not. So, yeah.
Of course, it wouldn't be at all like this, whether it's Warner Brothers or Disney, without having shops every couple of meters. But to be honest, you can find some pretty cool things. You can find some pretty cool presents and things like that in here. Of course, with Christmas just around the corner, you can get some pretty fun stuff. Not at all forgetting the wands, and they have some really, really cool exclusive ones as well. And to be honest, for £33, I think it could be a hell of a lot worse.
Now, guilty, I have been here before. I do already own some of these ones, so I'm not getting any today.
Again, you can test how different effects and things like that work through the green screen experiences. You do have to pay for those as well.
But I just love how inclusive it is to allowing people to discover and find out exactly what it takes to make such a beautiful film. And that's exactly what I do here on the channel. So hello, hi, my name is Luis. I'm a filmmaker specializing in animation and all things Disney, parks, animation, all that jazz. However, today, slightly different type of video. So if you do want to know everything that it takes to create films behind the scenes, or you just want to hear a Disney and filmmaking nerd waffle on camera, then you're in the right place. So like and subscribe. We do have a goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. We'll hopefully see you in next week's video. We do release every Sunday.
In here is then the Backlot Cafe, which is where you can just buy loads of food.
Things like burgers, things like hot dogs, nice sort of grab-and-go food, as well as butterbeer, of course, a very iconic part of the Harry Potter franchise. Now, I've tried butterbeer before. Not a huge fan of the taste of the actual beer itself, however, I thoroughly recommend the ice cream because it's a little bit cheaper and it's pretty nice. Plus, I just like ice cream in general.
Heading outside now, we do have some iconic sets, such as this version of the Burrow, of course, the Weasley's house. Now, this was actually created because in one of the films, they burnt down the house. And they're not going to do that to a full-size set like the one we saw earlier. So they built a little small-scale replica of it. I think it's like an 1/8 to scale or something. There you go. It says it there. A 1:3 scale. And of the Weasley's house. And that is because they did set it on fire. So it was much easier to set a smaller set on fire than it was a massive set like Privet Drive.
So because I had the job interview today, I've actually on a little bit of time limit. So I'm not going to head into Privet Drive today, but I do probably have some footage that I am currently playing on the screen at the moment, which basically displays what Privet Drive is. You get to see some of the iconic scenes, of course, when she explodes into a giant ball, Privet Drive, the cupboard under the stairs, things like that as well.
And out here, you've also got a newer addition to the tour, which is the greenhouse. Of course, a really fun one where you can actually lift a mandrake as well.
Again, just because of the queues, I'm not going to bother going in there today. However, here's another video of me in the previous years. It's a bit weird, Dave.
You can then also take photos on the night bus, but this time a full version of it.
And speaking of the buses, if you do need to get here and you are coming from central London, you can get either a bus from central London or you can get the Studios tour bus from Watford Junction. So I recommend taking that one.
Again, the photo opportunities here are absolutely fantastic and they do gather all around. Can we just appreciate actually how vibey this is? 5th of November today.
Fireworks night. Not that I think there's going to be any fireworks because it's, you know, like a random Tuesday. But it's my birthday tomorrow, so this is a nice little wander around as a sort of extra birthday treat, I'd say.
So once you're done, you then head into this building. This is where you then learn a little bit more about the special effects, the creature effects, and all of the behind the scenes, including this scary one just here. And I love this part of the tour because it tells you all about just how fantastic all of the different special effects actually are. Warwick Davis, of course, an iconic part of British film, but not just the Harry Potter franchise.
He talks to us just about how fantastic a lot of these sort of special effects pieces of makeup are and just how beautiful this place really is. It tells us how the iconic pieces of memorabilia are made.
And you can also have a look at how different animatronics are made. We saw this book a little bit earlier on in the tour, and you can see a little bit more on how they all work. So you've got a Mandrake, you've got Hedwig, you've got Voldemort. You've also got opportunities on how you can then become Dobby in a visual effects standpoint and how they use motion tracking, which is a very clever technology.
Although I'm not sure Xbox would approve of this use of their Kinect. This Dobby's clearly seen some stuff.
And of course, it does also mention body doubles and things like that for times that they can't put actors in danger. So of course, these are full-scale replicas of our different characters.
From the Goblet of Fire, more specifically the water scene when they go down there using the gillyweed, and of course, all of these guys can't necessarily be used in the films because it just would be too unsafe to do so.
A lot of the creatures, of course, where they can, they save money by making physical versions of these creatures. That would, of course, allow the CG budget to be slightly higher.
And again, they talk all about the different animatronics.
The Creature Workshop is then a massive part of Harry Potter. Of course, we've already looked at things like Aragog.
Again, apologies if you've got arachnophobia. And again, it breaks down the difference between CG and puppetry. Again, we also get a closer look at just how fantastic a lot of the makeup is, a lot of the visual effects makeup and things like that as well, specifically with Gringotts Bank, because of course no one actually looks like this, so the different makeup that's used is absolutely fantastic.
It goes through all of the different processes on how to make these masks, which is of course all the different plethora of things that Warwick Davis actually wore. Of course, he played every single one of these guys, including probably most iconic Professor Flitwick and Griphook. OG Professor Flitwick as well. That's the same guy. You can also learn about costuming.
And then you can head into the sort of architectural design of it all. And this is a massive part of filming that people forget. People design these sets. They don't necessarily just make them in the computer willy-nilly. They're all concepted, they're all built as little replicas and little mock-ups.
And sometimes there are smaller versions, sometimes there are bigger versions made of each one of these. This, of course, breaking down one of the most iconic parts of the films, Gringotts Bank.
And speaking of Gringotts Bank, you can actually head in there as well. And trust me when I say this set is impressive.
Just look at this.
The chandelier alone is like, wow.
But again, a few more of the iconic costumes, including Bellatrix Lestrange and of course the guy that Ron turns into. But this set is just absolutely beautiful. You'll be able to see a lot of the bank tellers themselves, and again, how beautiful that makeup is. and the quality of everything is just so well done.
However, probably the most iconic part of the Gringotts Bank, obviously it's beautiful, but it's probably two things in particular.
Number one is this, which I think would be the bestest ride in the world.
I'm yet to go to Universal Studios, so again, subscribe and actually have a reason to go to the Floridas, to the States. Of course, another iconic part is the actual vault itself, what is in it, and of course, most specifically, the Hufflepuff Cup, which is of course what they all dive in there to go and find in the first place. But there are some really good photo opportunities in here as well, and of course, some really fun little Easter eggs, which for me, this looks like a Labyrinth Easter egg. Any Labyrinth fans out there? Comment down below. One of the most iconic parts of Gringotts Bank was the dragon itself, and that thing was freaking sick. The way they pulled that off was incredible. The way that they built half a room and then just put like a big screen at the back of it, I think is so impressive.
Now, of course, one of the first locations we're introduced to in the Harry Potter franchise is Diagon Alley. And of course, we've got one of our Death Eaters here as well. Some iconic shops like Ollivander's, and of course, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, which is a fantastic thing to try and say 3 times in a row. Now, these guys up here are very, very funny. It's a good story about them.
Of course, twins James and Oliver Phelps both played Fred and George in the film, and the guy up here is actually supposed to resemble one of them. However, none of us actually know which brother it's supposed to be. One of the brothers claims that it's them because they're the most attractive, and the other one claims not them for the complete opposite reason.
But this set is just incredible. There are over 40,000 different props in this store,
including iconic props such as the puking pasties.
And just the plethora that is in the window display alone is incredible. The attention to detail in this place is perfect.
Of course, the entirety of Diagon Alley headed up by the head of the props department, John Richardson. And then we head into what I was talking about earlier on, concepts. A huge part of filmmaking. It's not just animation. Every single film has concepts in some way, shape or form. Whether that's how the sets are supposed to look, whether that's how the different visual effects are going to be looking, or a final scene in the film.
There are some very, very iconic pieces of concept art over the years with some really good concept artists.
But these guys are probably the unsung heroes of the film industry, because everything we see is because of these guys. They get given a brief, and of course they then come up with a final piece of art, which is what we then see in the film. None of this would exist, and none of the films would exist, ever, not just Harry Potter, without these guys. So they need a little bit more love, because what we see comes because of their work, and you get to appreciate that properly here at the tour. Now, speaking of appreciating things, by far the greatest thing on the tour, in my opinion, is
Hogwarts itself.
You can walk all the way around this beautiful, beautiful castle, which they did actually use for filming. Instead of digitally remaking the entire castle bit for bit, they built a miniature version, which you guys can see behind me, and then basically chucked it in a massive, massive green screen room, and then they flew cameras in and around the actual building itself to be able to use those higher shots.
So anytime you see on screen a piece of Hogwarts, especially when like Harry's flying around, obviously that's done CG, but 90% of the actual filmmaking itself was suspended from the top of here, and it's flown throughout the castle.
And they have every last detail. This is absolutely stunning, and during certain times of the year, especially for the Hogwarts in the Snow exhibition, which is during the sort of Christmas months, it looks like what you can see just here, all nice and snowy. The lighting in here is normally absolutely beautiful. Of course, now it shows it off in the daytime. However, I love it when it comes like purpley in the nighttime, and I'll attach some clips here as well.
But they have everything, all the most iconic parts from all the different films. The suspension bridge that Neville knocks down, technically. Hagrid's hut should be like down here somewhere, but it's not. But of course the castle itself is just beautiful.
The attention to detail is absolutely crazy, and I will never ever get over just how perfect this model really is. Here you go, the mood lighting's getting there a little bit more now. It's looking a little bit nicer, a little bit prettier in my opinion, but you have to commend just how fantastic the filmmakers are for making such things like this. And the Harry Potter Studios tour in general is just perfect for every Harry Potter fan, no matter how big, no matter how small, or just film fans in general, because not only do you get to appreciate one of the greatest film franchises of all time, but you also get to learn about how fantastic and how clever filmmaking really is, from the model making to the props to the costumes to the cameras to the VFX, the green screens, absolutely everything. And I love the fact that it doesn't necessarily focus on the actors themselves, it focuses on everyone behind the camera, which, as someone behind the camera, as a member of the animation production team and things like that, I appreciate that so much more.
But just look at this place when it's dark.
There you go, just as I was leaving. Need I say more?
And of course, it wouldn't be England without a little bit of rain, so they've made the castle nice and wet now.
Yeah, as they say, this is such a fantastic experience for any Harry Potter, any film fan, and it's just such a fantastic way of exploring one of the most iconic films in history, especially for us here in England. Now, this video is not at all sponsored, but I will link everything down in the description down below. Go grab your tickets. Obviously, it's coming up to Christmas, so take your loved ones and make some sick memories.
Of course, now you're finished, you can head on into the store and spend a ridiculous amount of money, which I'm not going to do.
So, of course, when you come here, you can buy all your wands and things like that. We've already discussed that as well. Loads of Harry Potter merchandise and memorabilia, but make sure you've got your money ready, because this place is not necessarily cheap. But you can literally get every wand you can possibly think of. There are so many of them, and they are some really, really nice ones exclusive to here at the studio tour as well. But of course, as you swiftly exit or enter the shop or the tour in general, you are met with the dragon itself, a beautiful atrium area where you can also go and grab some food and stuff like that from the back. There was some really good food. I actually had the burger for lunch today, so thanks to the studio for actually supplying me with that. It was really, really yummy. I do thoroughly recommend the burgers. However, there are vegan options and things like that as well. Of course, catering to everybody's specific needs. And the food is good, but of course, again, be warned, this sort of place, it's expensive. But yeah, my takeaways, my recommendations, I definitely say have the butterbeer ice cream over the actual butterbeer itself. You've probably seen online there's lots of controversy about whether the butterbeer is any good or not. Burgers paying as well. And just explore, enjoy yourself. I mean, you can take as long as you want, as quick as you want. I did this entire tour today in about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, mainly because I'm on a time limit and I've already been here this year already. However, if you haven't been here before, and if you're a big Harry Potter fan, you want to learn everything, you could spend upwards of 4.5 hours, which of course, as I say, is not everyone's cup of tea, but it could be yours. Of course, as well, before I leave you today, I've got to say, the Harry Potter Studios tour is actually located on Warner Brothers property, so it's actually where all the current films by Warner Brothers are being filmed. Recent additions include Barbie, filmed this building, or behind this building just here. Little insider knowledge there for you. And also, if you're driving around the area, you might see such sets as the Game of Thrones House of Dragon sets. You might also see things like, when I came last year, I saw the Wonka set, which was pretty sick. And of course, I mean, the studio itself speaks for itself. It's friggin' sick. You've got J Stage and K Stage, which of course, J.K. Rowling. But it allows you to fully explore everything in terms of the Harry Potter franchise. But to be honest, I think if you're a filmmaker, film nerd like myself, just being on Warner Brothers property is kind of sick. Like, these guys made it exactly on how an actual film set would look, and they do have active ones at the moment. So even when you're walking around the building, you're leaving the building and things like that as well, have a little look around, because you never know, firstly, who you're going to see, because this place is riddled with famous faces, and secondly, what you're going to see in terms of your sets. You also see from just behind me, these guys, the ones that you can see just here, they are fantastic. They've been used all across Harry Potter's history as well. I think they lit up a bridge with it at one point, which is kind of cool. But they are just like giant replicas of your wands, and it just leads the way back to the buses, which is kind of cute. And speaking of the bus, we've got one here. So this bus does head back to Watford Junction. It's free of charge to enter, so please like, subscribe if you did enjoy the video, and we will see you in next week's one. Peace.